now, baby. We are right back into the action for another day of the week. Welcome to the Mega Football Friday edition of the show right here on the Covers YouTube and X channels. If you're watching on YouTube right now, smash that like and that subscribe button right down there. A lot of great content up on the YouTube channel right now. If you watch the UFC, you're going to be tuning into UFC 311 tomorrow. Big time preview for that. Interview George St. Pierre, my best bets. That's in the video section. Big game coming up Monday in college football. Notre Dame, Ohio State. We broke that down with all of our college football analysts, including Brad Powers. Many of you guys have been tuning in every Friday to catch Brad. You can get his thoughts on the game there. He'll also be with us on game day on Monday. Okay, so big show planned for today. The divisional round of the NFL playoffs goes down Saturday and Sunday. Jingles will be along in a matter of seconds to break it all down with me. Second half of the show. Decent looking board in the NBA tonight. I've had some good reads the past couple of days. Going to try to keep that going. We have 5 total bets. Jon Metler and I, a couple topics to kick around. The Thunder beating the living shit out of the Cavaliers last night. And it looks like Joel Embiid will once again be on the shelf for a week and a half or so. Big shock, right? Okay, if you guys want to participate in the show, very easy to do so. Hit up that live chat on YouTube, on X. Pretty simple. Who's winning this weekend? Which underdog outside of Buffalo do you give the Rams, the Commanders, or the Texans a shot at all at winning outright? I don't really, but I wouldn't be shocked. Usually, you do get some upsets. It's the NFL playoffs. It's not always as easy as it looks on paper. Let us know what you like. We will read a few responses off throughout the course of the show. Okay, let's get right into the action. Let's go to the man with the sexiest smile in all of sports betting. Jingles, the weekend is almost upon us. How you making out, buddy?
Pretty good. I mean, we get fewer games, obviously, so it's obviously tough to find value across the board. But here we are trying to do things. But I don't know what you saw in the wild card round. You saw teams just lean on their bell cows, their big guys. You saw big name guys do big time things. So no time to get cute in terms of the prop market, I think, now.
Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of props I loved. There's one that I like that I'll be giving out on the show today, but I did a lot of digging, and there's not a whole lot of. Usually when I find something I like, click, yeah, we're betting on this. It all aligns. Not a whole lot of spots like that for me this weekend, but there is one that I do like. Okay, Jingles, let's get into these. We have a mix of spreads, totals, props, and a teaser, which I'm going to start with. I tweeted about this at the start of the week, that I think the best teaser spot is pairing the Kansas City Chiefs and Buffalo Bills, crossing some key numbers here. We're taking the Kansas City Chiefs down to -2.5 gently inside of that key number of 3 and bringing the Bills through the 3 and through the 7 up to +7.5 on their home field. Pretty basic teaser strategy with this one. The Texans last week, they played really well, but they also caught a lot of breaks. That game was pretty close for the first half or so. And then we saw that broken play where C.J. Stroud mishandled the snap. They ended up getting a big play out of that. Then everything just kind of went their way after that. Herbert, the ugly interceptions, lots of mistakes there by the Chargers. The playoff Chiefs are different too. The foot's going to be on the gas. It was kind of about navigating the regular season for Kansas City. No one was blown away with them. They still went 14-2. But we know this team is different in the playoffs. They're different at home, too. 11 straight wins on their home field. As for the Bills, home field advantage matters here. 9-0 at home for the Buffalo Bills. And what I do wonder is playoff Lamar going to show up? This is something we've talked about leading up to the playoffs here. We see these fantastic regular seasons from the Ravens, these MVP caliber seasons from Lamar. Then someone flips a switch in the playoffs and turns him off. Could that be coming in these frigid, ice-cold temperatures in Buffalo on Sunday? Maybe. Either way, I think the Bills will keep it close and keep it inside of 7.5 points. That is my favorite teaser for the weekend. Jingles, we have a couple of props for the first game. A couple of big names, Mahomes and Kelvin. What do you got for Mahomes?
I like his under 24.5 completions, even money. We released it on the Blitz with Derek Hardy on Wednesday. Big difference in terms of where this projects at 21.49. But if you kind of look, this could mirror last year's playoff run for Houston. Good win, at home, go outside, blown out. They got the doors blown off them last year. Baltimore as a 10-point dog, and we could see the same thing, which could lead in to a heavier run script, slower play, just ball control from Mahomes in this offense. Obviously, his offense is the healthy it's been, but 24.5 is a big one, especially considering the feel-like temperature could be around 5 degrees, Joe. I heard your spot today on TSN talking about whether you'd like to go to a game or not. These games, I have no interest in going to these games in this spot. And although this temperature doesn't really affect too much in terms of total and everything, it does really affect the passing game. That's where the drop-off comes from. So maybe an increase in running, lower in passing efficiency. And, I mean, this total, if you're looking at the number across where this is closed at 21 to 23.5 in 9 of his last 10 games. Giant favor, lots of cold. Let's go the under here.
I like this book by Todd here, this bet by Todd in live chat. A.J. Brown under 0.5 book shred. He made that guy a #1 bestseller on Amazon. A.J. Brown could take any piece of shit book, be caught reading it during the game, make that guy a #1 bestseller. Somebody should be paying him. Talk about all-time great product placement. A.J. Brown, and what was that book? Internal Greatness, whatever.
Inner Excellence.
Inner Excellence. I got to check that out. Okay, Travis Kelce.
Do you think like that was like disgruntled A.J. Brown that we've seen in the past, and he was just being selfish him? I saw like the interview, he seemed okay about it, and they're getting really good at talking about sad A.J. Brown, who only had 1 catch in that game. Like,
well, Jon Metler talked about how he was reading that to chill himself out so he wouldn't punch Jalen Hurts in the face. Now, he was exaggerating with punching him in the face, but just a way for him, because he's criticized the offense before, and this is just a way for him maybe when he's on the sideline to chill out a little bit, because that wasn't a great day for the Eagles offense, which you're going to be talking about here shortly. But yeah, that was his theory. And he's probably not too far off on that one. Okay, Travis Kelce. This is my favorite prop bet of the weekend. Absolutely worth a shot. I think this is a very fair price. 51.5 receiving yards for Travis Kelce, who is an elite postseason performer. Pretty good regular season. Numbers won't blow anyone away. He was 15th in targets in all of the NFL. But it's about getting these guys ready for the playoffs where they are at their best. And this is where he is at his best. He's had at least 71 receiving yards in 13 straight playoff games now. And he's still Mahomes' favorite target. The foot's going to be on the gas here. He caught 8 of 9 targets for 84 yards in his regular season finale against the Steelers. A bit of a tune-up here for this game. 6 games with double-digit targets this season. And it's about trust. This core has been together for a while now. And you think he's going to trust Kelce in this big game, or these new guys who've been on the team for less than a season? He'll get some balls too. Don't be surprised if Kelce gets double-digit targets in this game, though. I like him to go over 51.5 receiving yards. On to the night game. Sky-high total. I think a lot of the numbers are set right, the props I looked at. But there's one that really stood out to you for Commanders-Lions.
Commanders Lions. Did I get to my Eagles?
We were doing the
sorry, I'm all over the map here.
Robinson,
I got Brian Robinson, and this comes down to your prop from last week, which was a winner in the Eckler one, which I liked at the number you got, and it got inflated. And if you watch that game, it was interesting to see that. I mean, Eckler didn't cross the line until very late, and it was a lot of Brian Robinson getting the targets. It was a 50-50 coin flip in that game in terms of their routes run and their snap share. And if you're looking at that, and if that's going to translate again this week, there's some value on Brian Robinson's over receiving yards and Eckler's over rushing yards, because they both got about 50% of the work in both passing and running last week. 5 targets, 4 catches. He easily got over this number, and this could be a one and done spot. And I mean, negative game script, you always like to have the back. And 8.5 is a pretty small number. And I know you were sweating that Eckler play, and it did come down to the fourth quarter. And I think that's the one that's kind of overinflated in terms of the value, just because it's Austin Eckler. But it looks like that offense is kind of running both of those backs at 50% and kind of 1A, 1B situation.
Okay, on to Rams-Eagles. We have a bet in support of the Eagles and a bet not in support of the Eagles. I'm going to show them a little bit of support early in the game, at least. I'm going to take the Eagles to cover the first half spread, -3.5. The statistical advantages way too big to ignore. Let's jump into them here. So, Eagles, number 1 in the NFL in first half points allowed on their home field, just 5.9 first half points per game on their home field. Meanwhile, the Rams get off to extremely slow starts on the road, 29th in first half points on the road, just 6.9. 4th in yards per rush attempt for Philly. We saw what they did when they ran it down the Rams' throat when these teams met during the regular season. What Barkley have 400 rushing yards in that game, something close, not exactly on that one, but they're great at running the ball. The Rams aren't good against a run, 26 in yards allowed per rush attempt. The Eagles have the best pass defense in the NFL. Number 1 in yards allowed per pass attempt. This could make the Rams offense very one-dimensional and predictable. And this Rams team has been just wildly inconsistent all season. I think a lot of people think LA Rams and they think this high-flying team and they're dropping 30-point game after 30-point. Yeah, they're going to have a few really good games on offense, but they could barely score. Weeks 15 to 17. They could barely beat the Saints back in early December. Maybe some of these winter elements could take them a little bit of time to get going here. So, yeah, I don't really like the Rams on the offensive side of the ball, at least to start the game. So I'll take the Eagles first half, -3.5. And now the bet it not in support of Philly. Tell us how you're betting this one.
But I can get on board with what you're talking about too, Joe. Like, I think what we've seen, like Matthew Stafford's offense hasn't looked great. And I was on the under 23.5. And the only reason that team total crossed the line last week was because of Herbert, right? It was because of what we saw on the other side of the ball in Darnold. And this is a spot where I don't like the Eagles offense too much. And a lot of it is like what Jalen Hurts in this passing game really is. And we obviously just kind of alluded to it with the A.J. Brown situation. This team's going to run the ball. And Jalen Hurts is not a good running quarterback anymore. His look anymore. He's not Lamar. He's not Jaden Daniels. And when I'm looking across this divisional round and which quarterback I kind of want, Jalen Hurts is at the bottom of my list, basically. I'd rather Jaden Daniels right now than Jalen Hurts in this offense. And I think we could see, like, you already seen the under come down a bit. There was some resistance at 44. It's at 43.5 now. This could be the lowest scoring game, I think, of all. I think it could be lower scoring than the Houston-Kansas City game, possibly. You get the indoor offense going outdoors to Philly. And I think in terms of this is not going to be a game where the LA offense really pushes the Eagles to score a ton of points. So I can see a world where Philly covers, but they don't need to score as many points. And 24.5 is a big number. And you're on that key number, 24.5. I like this. Definitely my favorite team total under. And I wouldn't be surprised if it was just like, here's Saquon, here's Saquon, here's Saquon. I mean, their leading pass catcher last week was 54 yards in Devontae Smith.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that game is a bit dull. Peter Puck said Stafford is 1-9 in games under 32 degrees. Yeah, all that time in Detroit, of course, those games were all indoors. So yeah, kind of an interesting stat right there. Yeah, I'm thinking this could be the end of the road here for the Rams. Okay, on to the main event of the weekend. Ravens in Buffalo to take on the Bills. I've been betting this one a lot, and it keeps hitting. So I'm playing it again, and we're getting it at a better number than in recent weeks. It is the Bills to go over their team total of 24.5, coming in at -120. So the Bills are an NFL best 14-4 to the over on their team total. That goes to 8-1 at home. They've scored 30 or more points in 8 of their 9 games at home here this season, where they averaged 33.9 points per game. And yes, a lot has been made of this turnaround by the Ravens defense. They stunk in the first half of the season. They allowed a lot of points, a lot of big plays. But hey, they completely turned it around, right? Yeah, they have gotten better, but you really have to consider the level of competition here that they faced down the stretch. Tim Boyle, And Danny DeVito and the Giants, remember that game? The Steelers, they faced them twice. That offense has completely fallen off of a cliff. The Texans offense hasn't been great. And DTR and the Browns, or was it even, I think it was DTR in the final week, or was it Zappy and the Browns? Hey,
Maybe
congratulations.
A both.
Yeah, you had a good game against those two bums. So lots of big playability with the Bills. The Ravens have allowed quite a few big plays through the air, and don't discount that home field advantage here playing in front of the home fans. Bills to go over that team total. On the other side here, you're expecting a big game from one of the marquee players in this game.
Yeah, it looks square, but as we were talking to him 2 weeks ago, key players in key games in the playoffs kind of get bigger workloads, as we see. And Derrick Henry, I've never bet a 2+ TD. I've never released it, but I don't see a spot where this Baltimore run game doesn't get to do what it wants to do. 2 tight end sets, 300-pound fullback. They're absolutely going to run the ball down the throat of Buffalo, who is an undersized defense. You're like, oh, they weren't healthy last time they played. Matt Milano wasn't there. Well, guess what? Matt Milano's a better coverage linebacker. In the box, he is more of a liability than anything else. You saw this team just run the ball. They ran the ball 13 straight times on a drive last week. You can't stop it. And the only thing that scares me about what Derrick Henry can do, and you can get his 100+ yards because his total's at about 95, and a TD around plus 160, which also is a great look. I think Derrick Henry could run for 120 yards in this game. But the only thing that scares me is what we saw from Pittsburgh last week. And that was selling out to stop the run. And on those options plays, and just kind of watch the game, on those option plays, Lamar's getting very good at reading that defense and seeing if that end collapses and take it himself and run. That's where he's getting his yardage from. If they sell out to stop Henry and bring those ends collapsing, then it's tuck and run for Lamar season. But we've also seen Lamar not score a lot recently, just 1 touchdown in his last 6 games. So it's like, we're in the red zone. Just give it to the guy no one can stop over the entire year. I mean, the guy's averaging like 135 rushing yards per game over his last 4 games. It's beast mode for Henry.
Okay, so before you go, which one of these underdogs outside of the Bills, that game's basically a pick 'em, which one of these underdogs do you think, I'm not going to ask you to predict one to win outright, but which one do you think has the best performance, is the most competitive?
I think Houston falls on its face going outside in the cold, exactly like they did last year, still patting themselves on the back for a good wild card win. I think 9.5 points is this Washington-Detroit game is like saying, is it really the same as Lamar Jackson versus Russell Wilson, which was the same spread that game was? I don't see that. I think Jaden Daniels might be the scariest backdoor covering quarterback in football, especially late in the game. But I'd have to go with the Rams just on the spot that I think it will be maybe a lower scoring game. I like both of those defenses, and it could come down to a single play. Those are some big spreads in all of a sudden. I mean, divisional round, we're sitting at 8.5, 9.5, and 6. Joe, like, what happened? Are we going to have the same thing as last week where it's like,
I hope not,
so excited and then down the pooper?
That was rough. Get so excited. Everything on Saturdays building up these 2 games. Oh, this first one stinks. We'll get to the night game. Oh, this sucks. We'll get to Sunday. This game sucks. We'll get, and it just kept going. The Sunday night game was good, but the Monday night game was an absolute joke too. Turned it off. Okay, Jingles. So hopefully we have some good results with some competitive games and hit some winners here. You'll be back with us on Monday to recap the weekend, winners and losers, look ahead to the championship round. So best of luck with all the bets. Enjoy the games, and we'll catch you on Monday.
All right. Appreciate it, Joe. Have a great weekend, pal.
Indeed. Okay, closing in on over 1,000 live viewers right now across YouTube and X. The majority of you guys on X right now. A very lively live chat. People weighing in, arguing about their teams, dropping some historical facts. What do you guys like in the NBA tonight? Let's talk some NBA with our guy, the Magic Ass Man, Jon Metler. And John, I was kicking myself last night, so a couple pretty good reads. I had the over in the Rockets Kings. I had the Clippers to beat the living shit out of the Trailblazers. They had a pretty good game. But I had the Oklahoma City Thunder minus 1.5 written down to submit to the show. And I dug into it and I overthought it. I saw all hurt and signs that this isn't good against this Cavs front court. And I took it off and I put the Dudley double-double in there. Now, not only did the Thunder beat the living shit out of them and easily cover the number, but the game got so out of hand that Dudley's minutes are cut short. Now, he had a decent first half, too. I think he had 7 rebounds and 8 points. So if he's playing his full allotment of minutes, that was probably going to hit. But, so I kicked myself for that one. But your thoughts on that performance by the Thunder last night? Very impressive.
Well, they stepped on their throats right away. Like it was like 40-17 near first quarter or second quarter. They came out and shot lights out. So Jared Allen, like you're saying, his miss just completely, like at that point, basketball games, and when you're betting on them, it's really, if you get something like that early, it really just doesn't become a game. Like it's just totally like not what you're expecting from like a player props, because all the minutes get messed up and stuff like that. I mean, the Thunder are incredible. Like they're just depth and defense, and like they don't even, like Isaiah Hartenstein and Chet Holmgren are arguably, you could throw votes at either one of them for defensive player of the year, and you're missing both of them. And we haven't even seen them play together, and think about how good the Thunder are. Like that is scary. I think the Thunder are the favorites from the NBA Finals. I mean, they're like plus 250. They're up there. But in terms of like head to head Celtics Thunder, if I had to make a pick right now, I would take the Thunder for 1,000%.
Yeah, my worry with them is like with the Celtics, you have other guys that can pick up the slack in the scoring department when Tatum is struggling, like we saw during their playoff run this past year. Do the Thunder have that, do you think? If SGA is not on, if you're not going to get the 30 from him, do you have confidence in the secondary scoring for that?
Yeah, that would kind of be the issue. Like you're going to need SGA to he's going to need to be the MVP. And then you're kind of leaning more on Jalen Williams to kind of step it up there as like the second guy. I just do think the other argument would be, okay, so the Celtics have more scoring for sure, like Jaylen Brown, Kristaps Porzingis, a couple guys that you can lean on. But the Celtics also only have like 6-7 guys. It's like off the bench, just Peyton Pritchard, Sam Hauser, Al Horford, and like that's their roster. The Thunder are like 10, 12 deep. Like, who do you want us to play? We can match up 10 different ways. We can put Dort over here. Maybe we put Holmgren, maybe go small. I just don't think the Celtics have as many like chess moves as the Thunder could play. Yeah. And I think the Thunder are probably going to make one more trade here that adds another chess piece into it. So I think that's kind of, I think at Cam Johnson's the guy to keep an eye on. I think everyone in the world wants him, but the Thunder can literally outbid anyone. They have first round picks they can't even roster. So
it's all coming together for OKC. Nice to see. Okay, so we have, I believe, 5 picks between the two of us. We got 2 for this Magic Celtics game. Why don't you start us off with that prop bet you like?
Yeah, pretty random. Wendell Carter Jr. over 2.5 assists, big plus money, plus 145. You're just looking at this and like they can't score. I think that's pretty obvious. They just win off of defense, the Magic. So like there's a ton of pressure right now with like all the guys for out. It's on Cole Anthony and Paolo Banchero to create. And now you're going to have tough matchups for them, right? Like Jaylen Brown, Drew Holiday, Derek White. I just think you're going to see them use, I think Wendell Carter is going to find himself in that like kind of like assist stealer spot where he's not doing anything great. He's just going to take the pressure off of those two by hanging out around near the nail, and like he'll catch a pass from them and just swing it. And like you look at the guys who are playing for the Magic instead of Jalen Suggs, instead of Franz Wagner, it's just really catch and shoot guys. Like Tristan Da Silva's having a good rookie year, but mostly catch and shoot. Caleb Houston's mostly catch and shoot. So, and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope also like more catch and shoot. So it's like they don't really have other guys who can create. So I just think you're going to see them, kind of use Carter as a like pressure release. You are concerned 14.5 point spread, 13.5 point spread, blowout, but they're down. Like they don't have Mo Wagner's out for the year. Your backup center, Goga Batadze, is out in this game with a concussion. They don't want to push minutes for Jonathan Isaac. They were just getting killed by the Milwaukee Bucks their last game. And Wendell Carter Jr. played 33 minutes and he closed the game. Even though they were down 30, he was still on the floor. So just from like a minutes perspective for him specifically, I'm not sure the blowout will come into play for him. So that's also why I like the over.
Okay, I like the Celtics to have a big game and cover the spread. They're favored. Big number here, 13.5. This is why I like them to cover the big number. So they've been really good after a loss this season, 8-3 ATS. And their last loss was not an ordinary loss. It was a complete and total embarrassment. So they were a massive favorite against the Raptors in Toronto. They end up losing by 13. After the game, stuff comes out on social media. Tatum and Brown were seen out partying in Toronto, which is known as a pretty good party city in NBA circles. White Vegas, I believe they used to call it. I don't know if they refer to it like that anymore, but real amateur hour stuff here by the Boston Celtics. It's supposed to be like a real button-up organization. That's not a championship level move by them. So I wouldn't be surprised if those guys got reamed out, and I wouldn't be surprised if they do look to bounce back in a big way. And look at them in these games after losses this season. They have 7 wins of 15 or more points in games after a loss this season. What kind of form are these teams in? Yeah, the Celtics looked awful versus the Raptors, but still last 10 games, 3rd in net rating. Rough spot here for the Magic. They're 26th in that category. Magic won't sneak up on them either, because the Magic have been pretty competitive against the Celtics over the past couple seasons here. And Orlando has the worst offense in the NBA right now. Dead last in a lot of important categories. Offensive rating, the 3-point shooting has been horrendous. So I like the Celtics to bounce back big, -13.5. Okay, one team in serious need of a bounce back here, Jon, is a team that lost by 59 points the other night. Probably not a whole lot of people lining up to bet on the Brooklyn Nets, but you are betting on them tonight. Tell us why.
Yeah, I put that on the graphic, actually. I was like, I think that's kind of why this number got a little inflated, because you just saw them get blasted by 59 points against the Clippers. So why would anyone want to take them against the Lakers? I like this number, +11.5. There's two different versions of the Nets. There's the team an organization that wants to tank, and sometimes they put out that roster. And then there's the organization that actually has some like half decent pieces. And Jordi Fernandez, to me, is just a really good coach. And that's the roster I think you're getting tonight against the Lakers. It says, Cam Johnson sat out that game against the Clippers with an ankle sprain, but it was more just rest because it was second night of back-to-back. They have Ben Simmons confirmed to play. They have D'Angelo Russell confirmed to play. They have Nick Claxton confirmed to play. So it sounds like it's the A roster, not the B roster today. And then also just from like an organization standpoint, there's got to be a little extra motivation. D'Angelo Russell is going against the Los Angeles Lakers, and you feel like that would be something where you kind of want to rally for your teammate. And like as a coach, again, Jordi Fernandez, you probably want to rally for D'Angelo Russell going against his old team. Just thought the 11.5 was too high. I know Dorian Finney-Smith, who went from the Nets to the Lakers, he's a big piece for the Lakers. He's out, so thought this should be closer to like 7. So 11.5, that's a huge gap on a spread. You don't see that too often. So I was like, I'll take it.
Okay, next up, it is a game that everyone's probably tuned into the show for. Everyone wants to hear about this big Hornets-Bulls game going down tonight in Chicago. Pretty high total for this one, 235.5. I think this is too high, so I'm going to take the under. And the Bulls are going under these sky-high totals quite a bit. So check this out. They are 13-4 to the under over their last 17 games. 13 of these games had a total of 235 or higher. This one's sitting here at 235.5. And the reason why a lot of their totals are so high is earlier in the season, they would often get into the 240s, the 250s, even the 260s, I believe, a couple times with their opponents. So the sky-high scoring has kind of cooled off in Chicago games, and I don't really think the market is reacting to that. Look at these teams defensively over the last 10 games. 4th and 10th in defensive rating, 4th for the Charlotte Hornets, 6th and 7th in opponent EFG shooting percentage. On the other side of the court, though, the Hornets having a lot of trouble, among the worst in the NBA, 29th in offensive rating and 3-point shooting over the last 10 games. Bulls not so hot either, 20th in offensive rating, dead last in free throw attempt rate, under 235.5 tonight in Chicago. And Jon, let's wrap up the week with an SGP. What do we got?
Yeah, the game of the week, Bulls Hornets. We're going SGP here. So Mark Williams, I put Mark Williams 3+ assists on here for the SGP, but Mark Williams over 1.5 assists. It was about -115 this morning. That's one of my favorite props on the board. I just didn't put it as a straight bet graphic here because I had this SGP too. So I figured we could talk about then. This is all on Mark Williams. And I just think he has a really good matchup against Nikola Vucevic, but it also comes into the fact that the Hornets traded Nick Richards, his backup center. Nick Richards is going to Phoenix. So you look at his last game, he played I think it was 36 minutes. And these projections for him are kind of around 26, 27. So you're seeing an edge on these totals with a projection of about 27 minutes. And you're like, he could play 35. That's very realistic. And the matchup also just plays. So he had a monster game against the Utah Jazz. It's also it's one of those things where like you could probably see him go back-to-back monster games because the opponents are also lining up for him, right? Utah Jazz, Charlotte Hornets. It's not like you're going, Rockets and then Timberwolves and like a great interior defense. He's going against Nikola Vucevic. So I just feel like this is a player that's kind of flying under the radar as they try to adjust his role here with Nick Richards gone. And I think the rebounds is not an alt, but the points is an alt and the assists is an alt. The rebounds, I just put 10 plus. You could probably go 12 plus. I just know most books jump 10 to 15. So I didn't want to put 12 and kind of mess people up. If you have access to 12, you could go 12 plus, but I went 10 plus.
All right, big Mark Williams night tonight, baby. Let's go. Okay, that does it for the show today. Let's recap the NFL picks. If you missed that segment off the top, I like a 6-point teaser. Chiefs, Bills. They bookend the week here for us. Kelsey over 15.5 receiving yards. Eagles first half -3.5. Bills team total over 24.5 -120. Producer Mick. Jarrett Allen to record a double-double. That is from yesterday. Mick went 2 straight days nailing the best bet graphic. We'll give him a break, though. It is Friday. It's been a long week around here. NBA best bet, Celtics -13.5. Hornets, Bulls under 235.5. Wendell Carter Jr. over 2.5 assists. Nets +11.5 in that SGP. Mark Williams, baby. Let's go. Okay, so that does it for today's show. There's a lot going on this weekend. UFC 311 goes down in Los Angeles tomorrow. We have our preview up for that. GSP, I got to interview him, get his thoughts on these big fights, and I gave out my best bets as well. So if you're interested in the UFC, check that video out here on the Covers YouTube channel. We're getting you set for the College Football National Championship game going down on Monday. We have a big preview up for that as well. And we will be back on Monday. Brad Powers will be here, take one last look at the national championship game, get into some prop bets as well. Cannot wait for that. Recap the NFL out of the weekend. And of course, Jon Metler will be here to talk some NBA, baby. Let's go. Derek M, back to 0 days since. Let's get a streak going here next week.
We need a graphic of that. We need a graphic we can use on X. That'd be hilarious.
Classic. I love it. All right. Thank you to both my guests for joining. Thank you to producer Mick for putting together a show. 90% is what I will give him on that. A bit of a fall off with the graphic, but we'll get that corrected here next week. Thank you to all the great viewers for tuning in here today as well, especially the guys in the live chat. Best of luck with all of your bets this weekend. Enjoy the games. Let's go Celtics.